one of the things that you spoke about that was also very impactful was how in the martyrdom of Malcolm, in the aftermath, so to speak, many groups tried to claim him, such as the Socialists,
Yep.
and you could go on and expand on that, but you made a very powerful statement in that who Malcolm really represented for us.
Yeah, recalling what I could recall was basically you got Malcolm X means many different things to many different people because he's a superstar icon in the revolutionary movement and a martyr, right?
Hmm.
Right. So you have a lot of people who've been having a lot of intellectual discussions on Malcolm's ideology and the direction that he was going,
Hmm.
and depending on which school of thought that you adhere to, they try to make it, fit for them because Malcolm was he was multidimensional,
Hmm.
right? So as I was saying, a lot of people say he left this Nation of Islam teachings to say white folks were not devils because he made Hajj, and then that's what the Sunni Muslims say about them, and then the Pan Africanists say no, he abandoned his Orthodox Islamic teachings for Pan Africanism,
Hmm.
right? And then the socialists, in turn, with them say, no. If you look at his further books and teachings, he's talking about he was traveling a socialist path, a socialism path, right? So you got the Nation of Islam, the Sunni Muslims, the Pan Africanists, the socialists, and then you got the miscellaneous peoples of, non-black peoples. He's inspired, Malcolm X has also inspired, white people, uh, brown people, orange people, yellow people, and red people. He's been the catalyst, for many different races because that represents the oppressed, and Malcolm X represents, and he is the champion of the oppressed, right? But the only ones who can lay claim to his legacy is not any of those other parties. Yeah, his family can lay claim to it, but really only the freedom fighters and the people who adhere to his philosophy to put it into action can lay claim to his legacy. His legacy is definitely for the people first and foremost. And when we say it's bigger than all of us, it's bigger than all of us involved. The mission that he was with is bigger than copyrights. It's bigger than trademarks. It's bigger than the exploitation of a freedom fighters who paid the price name and trying to homogenize it and put it, make it milk chocolate. Malcolm X, in the middle of his many speeches, says he has his coffee black, too strong. But I felt at that Malcolm X Day, it was a disservice and a disdainful, disrespectful slap in the face to him, right? Because this was a person, one, he connected with many different people, but he was a Muslim. That was no secret about it.
Hmm.
And I figure if you ask him or his family, shit, they serve pork there. That's like asking him, you want a pork sandwich, and that's basically what it was.
Hmm.
Yeah, the people tried to say, maybe the 12 people tried to say they like pork, but this is not your day. This is Malcolm X Day. We're supposed to be going in the spirit of Malcolm X,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's the disdainful thing on that. It was also identical to the Martin Luther King, how white sponsors, beer commercials, and all the people who had nothing to do with the civil rights movements and possibly were against it during this time and era are now championing this cause and exploiting this image,
Hmm.
right? They had Malcolm X on the stamp some years ago, and at first I applauded it, but if you go review his speeches, he's famous for saying we're not Americans, we're second-class citizens. But now they're trying to take control of his image and put him in front of an American flag like he's an American patriot,
Hmm.
right? That's the bad part in the exploitation of it. I felt that event wasn't in the spirit of Malcolm X. It felt more like it was a black probation officer, parks and recreation church type of thing in the name of Malcolm X. And I felt absolutely no spirit of Malcolm or revolution and freedom of the people.
Hmm.
So in the spirit of Malcolm X and his grandson,
Hmm.
Al-Hajj Malcolm Latif Il-Shabazz, as I said earlier, he died May 9th. That's 10 days earlier than Malcolm's birthday. He died in 2013 in Mexico City, and they had a mass riot over there with the blacks in that country over that, right? And it would behoove you to not only study Malcolm and live it, or not to just listen to his speech, but study it and try to complete the works that Malcolm gone. Go with his most recent and latest books. That's where he last left off at, and that's a very good place to start off, right? Among the things was going to the UN, the United Nations, and creating a two-thirds block to block whatever types of interests that the United States and the European powers may have. You know what I'm saying? And since then, many people have tried to copycat or emulate his approach to the United Nations by taking our problem from a domestic national thing to an international world court where they would be held liable for the war crimes perpetuated against darker peoples or black peoples. Right? That's what Malcolm X is. I found out he's also celebrated in countries like Iran, Africa, China, and all that. They celebrate him and his grandson, right? So when I see an insult and a farce to a freedom fighter who was for the people and he dedicated and he died in blood, I don't want to hear about your programs unless you're going to put it in the context of Malcolm X. Don't just use his image and then push a homogenized anti-Malcolm agenda, and that's what it was. That's what it was. And if everybody wants me, you want to come get at me, that means I was the only one who came in the spirit of Malcolm, and all the rest was not. Malcolm X Rated is my name from them Thundercats, Black Panther Party for National Defense. The true spirit of Malcolm and his grandson, Malcolm Latif Shabazz. So, Brother Meshach Black, you know what I'm saying? Brother Digital, what's this? Chronic Digital, what's this movement?
Chronic Digital Media.
Chronic Digital Media. I be smoking a lot of media, right? But that's the one take. I would also have to say, since that time, the next week after the Malcolm X rally, me and my comrades, them Thundercats, we had a 3-hour standoff with the police officers, right? It was a lot of helicopters flying around. It was a 14 cruiser alert for this one person who they alleged to have a firearm, right? He got stopped right on that corner over there yonder, and 14 squad cars got both sides, and they arrested the young man, and they was gaffling him up. And his car was over there. They were saying his gun, his firearm was in the car, right? After we went in and said we're not going anywhere, we did a line of scrimmage, line of face-off with the police. I'd like to send you images against the police where we had the face-off with it. The end result of it was they thought the gun was in the car. The mother who thought the gun was in the car finally surrendered the key so they can get in the car. The suspect was in custody tang. They went in the car. They found no firearm. Now because they found no firearm, the person he had to be released, and he was on probation, but he had to get released. And their car, which they was going to tow, now could not get towed. So we had a flawless victory, right, standing in the way of putting in the defense with the Panther parties of enacting Malcolm X's vision, standing up to police oppression and brutality, or what's termed in this modern era, police terrorism, right? You have police who terrorize Bloods, Crips, Mexican gangs, and others, and they incarcerate us all at extremely high rates for prison for profits and pipeline to prisons program that they're exploiting, right? Malcolm X, Al-Haj, Omar Wali Malik Shabazz, as was most important, a freedom fighter, but he was also a social scientist. And he also analyzed the institutional environment that, dominates black people's lives. So I can go on and on when it comes to this freedom fighting stuff. Thank you for those few precious moments. And to the people, power to the people, as a champion of the oppressed and in the spirit of Al-Haj, Omar Wali Malik Shabazz, better known to the world as Malcolm X, and his grandson, Malcolm Al-Haj, Malcolm Latif Shabazz, and the many countless freedom fighters who you've inspired. Keep up the good work. Continue on and complete the work of Malcolm X. Power to the people.